Hi guys, and welcome back to day 13 of Inktober. So today I worked on a design that was pretty free flow for me, I guess, if that makes sense. I love working on designs that I can really plan out the composition. I have to find reference for all these different objects and think through how everything's going to be placed and find new concepts and new ideas. And Inktober has been wonderful as far as pushing me in that direction. There have been a lot of pieces that have taken me out of my my go-to types of images that I create, and it's gotten me a little bit out of a rut that I've been in. So I have been really happy about that. But today I decided that I wanted to create a piece that was very free flow. It was something that was close to how I like to design things, and it was very just about enjoying the process and enjoying the creation of the piece itself. And in a lot of ways it was giving me a little bit of a break, and I know that sounds a little bit lazy, I guess, where I feel like I need a break from designing good art, but it was a nice just relax for my brain. I feel like when I do a lot of pieces that are really conceptually pushing the limit for what I'm used to a degree, and I'm thinking through the concepts and the ideas and the subject matter and everything that's going on in it, I am really satisfied with it. But then when I do a bunch in a row, it suddenly feels like I'm afraid that I'm going to totally lose that I'm going to create a piece that just totally misses the mark, or that it's not living up to that expectation. So I find that sometimes when I'm starting to feel that moment where I'm feeling like I'm going to run out of ideas, which is an awful feeling to have, sometimes it's nice to just come back and produce a piece that doesn't take a lot of mental energy, and then to be able to come back with fresh eyes and a fresh brain and think through concepts that are once again interesting and pushing myself. So this was actually just a really nice cool down piece, I guess, in a way, where I could enjoy some of the design elements that I do enjoy creating and I know that I like, but then I also added details that I thought would be fun to create, and it was details that I don't actually put in my pieces very often, or details like that, I should say. And so for this, the main or the biggest design element for this is really the cloak and her hair, and they both have this very flowing wave-like shape, which is definitely something that I design a lot of, and I really enjoy that. So that was nice to be able to create a piece that was based around that, something that I have a little bit of a shorthand for creating it and for sitting down and producing it. It was really great to just have a cornerstone of that. But it was also really fun to throw in some details that I enjoyed and that I felt like told a little bit of a story. I liked giving ears to her hoodie, and also it was just really fun to design the bow that she has. It went through a few different iterations when I was designing this in the sketch phase. The one that I really liked, and I was about to do it actually, I printed off the digital sketch and I was going to transfer it over, but then it hit me that it looked like exactly like the, I guess it's the collar of Jack Skellington's jacket. And while I definitely love getting inspiration from lots of different places, I didn't want it to be so on the nose of a different character. I wanted it to not be that specific of someone else. So ultimately I did redesign it, which I think was definitely the right choice. It pushed me to think through it a little bit more and find a way to incorporate it with the rest of the design, whereas my initial design that I was going to go with, it fought a little bit with some of the design elements. So that was one of the things that my first thought and my first reaction, and something that I really liked, didn't end up being the best option that there was, which in a lot of cases that's what it is that I have an idea and it seems like it's the right one, and then I push it a little bit further and then I realize that it's not, and that there's a better way to do it, which is always nice. It's always good to realize that I am capable of pushing myself to a better plane of art, to a better concept and a better idea. I think I also really enjoyed this piece, designing it and creating it, because I added a few little details that hinted at other Halloween characters and Halloween concepts and stories. And this is one of the most Halloween pieces that I've done in Inktober, which I really enjoyed. It was nice to just let myself create a piece around a holiday that's one of my favorites. So as I was drawing it, the hood and the ears that could be wolf ears. That one made me think a lot about Red Riding Hood, obviously, but I also gave her these little stitches around her nose and her lips, kind of like a scarecrow. So there was just these little hints everywhere that were just a little bit Halloween-y, and I liked that because I didn't want to do anything that was too on the nose Halloween for my Inktobers, because I want this to feel very free from those binds. I want it to feel conceptual in a different span and my own ideas, I guess, if that makes sense. So I didn't want to get too close to that, but this piece, I really enjoyed adding those little subtle details and subtle hints that brought it back to that. While I was inking this, I realized that I was taking a very long time on the hair, way longer than I normally take, and I wasn't even that far into it, and I couldn't really figure out why I was having such a hard time drawing this hair when it really theoretically should have been pretty typical. I have this sort of a formula or a shorthand on how I like to draw the hair, how it twists around itself so that it creates this dimension to it, as well as it being really easy to go in and add more lines and more definition to it. And I love drawing hair. It's one of my favorite things to ink because of that, because it's just very free flowing and I don't even have to think about it. But for this one, for some reason, I realized that I was sitting here taking so long on the locks of the hair, I guess, past where it was around framing her head. And I was like, why is that? I couldn't quite figure out why, if it was just me and I was feeling tired, I don't know. But it hit me. I have these hair ties in the hair, and I was like mentally segmenting the hair. So I was looking at it in these chunks, as well as the fact that when I was drawing it, I think I did the exact same thing. I was looking at it in chunks. So I created these very linear lines in the hair rather than a twisting shape that I normally do. And I definitely prefer the dimension and the shape that this more twisting concept has than just the straight on, because I feel like it's easier to go in and ink something that has this curve to it that I want. And I realized that that's what happened, is that these hair ties were making me look at each segment of the hair and then trying to ink those, and then I was getting hung up on it because it wasn't quite making any sense, and then I was struggling with connecting it with the next one, and all this stuff was happening without me really paying attention, because I was obviously not putting enough thought into this while I was inking it. I was kind of zoning out a little bit, but it just hit me that it really only takes a little bit to throw you from your usual routine, and I think in a lot of ways that was a good thing. It reminded me that having just an automatic go-to way to do something every time is not necessarily the best for design elements. And I love the way that I draw hair, and I love creating it. It's really enjoyable for me, but it also means that I can be a little bit more conscientious about the choices that I'm making and why I'm making them. That way it can be a little bit more adaptable, and I'm not just following the same precedent of what I've already done because I know it works. So I'm not talking about this like I'm going to make some huge upheaval on how I like to draw hair, but it does give me a little bit food for thought as far as thinking about what design elements I'm consciously designing and what things I'm just automatically designing from muscle memory. And I think one of my favorite things about this piece is this very slight quote unquote pattern in her clothing. It's not really a pattern, but I just went in with a darker wash after I had created pretty much all the values within her clothing, and just did this little flicking motion all the way down, following basically the flow and the grain of the fabric. And I really liked it. I think that it adds another level to it. I've been really enjoying adding patterns with the ink wash itself, not in the inking. Like one of my last ones where he was wearing a sweater, I added stripes, and it's really fun to add those final little touches. I think that it adds so much life to it, which really doesn't take that much, and it's always so satisfying to do a little pattern like that. And this one was super easy to enact. I will definitely utilize it in the future. It adds a lot more interest to it with almost no extra thought or time. It's just really easy to make it happen and make it a really enjoyable process. And that is it for today's Inktober. I do have the original available in my shop. There's a link in the description as well as in the end card. And also I'll be compiling all of my Inktober's into one book, so stay tuned for information on that. I know I keep saying that I'll give more information, but things are still in the planning, but I promise it'll be soon when I actually launch the way that you guys can pre-order it and get it for yourselves. But I do post daily Inktober videos, so if you'd like more, stay tuned for tomorrow for another Inktober video. And for today, I think that's about it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.